Hi guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a very overdue Top 5 Tuesday. It's Halloween in literally 2 days time, and to get you in the spooky spirit of things, I thought I would give you my top 5 spooky book recommendations that you can sit down with on Halloween night and read in the dark by candlelight. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. At number 5, we have got a classic murder mystery, and that is The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is one of the 4 Sherlock Holmes novels that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote, and in my opinion it is by far the best and the most creepiest murder mystery you are ever going to read, set in the Victorian era. It follows Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson as they investigate the supernatural hound that has seemingly been stalking the young heir to the Baskerville estate. It's set in the Devonshire moors around Dartmoor and Grimpen Mire, so that is the perfect foggy setting for a lot of spooky goings on, and pretty much every scene in the novel is set at night time. I was absolutely terrified by the descriptions of the hound and his fiery red eyes, and I also love the fact that the hound is based off a real life legend that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's friend told him about after visiting that area of the UK, which makes it even more enjoyable. This is definitely a book that is going to have your heart pounding, and I will recommend it to everybody who asks which Sherlock Holmes story is the best. At number 4 is a very recent read for me, and that is The Whitby Witches by Robin Jarvis. I read this book last week for the Spookathon, thoroughly enjoyed it. It follows these 2 children called Ben and Jeanette. They are moving to Whitby and living with their new foster parent, Aunt Alice. Ben is a young boy who has the ability to be able to see ghosts, and in Whitby there are a lot of those, and he also discovers that he has the ability to see these creatures that live in the caves around Whitby and by the sea. We also have a mysterious woman that has moved to the town, and as she arrives, a lot of deaths start taking place. I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. It's a very easy read, and I love that Robin Jarvis has incorporated a lot of the myths and legends from Whitby in the book. There's mentions of Dracula, there's mentions of Saint Hilda, there's mentions of the Barghest. It is very enjoyable, and the last 50 or so pages are an absolute roller coaster. If you love everything to do with ghosts and witches and sea creatures in this instance, this is definitely one of the books for you. It's also the first book in a series, and I really can't wait to read the next 2 books. At number 3 is another recent read for me, and that is Loki, Where Mischief Lies by Mackenzie. You guys know that I have been banging on about this book even before it was released, and I absolutely loved it. It's pre-Avengers, so we follow a young Loki on Asgard and at a big feast that Odin is holding. Loki and his friend Amora, who is a sorceress, end up causing damage to the God's Eye mirror, which is one of Asgardians' most prized possessions. Amora takes all of the blame for it and ends up being banished to Earth because of that. She is stripped of her powers. Fast forward a few years and some Asgardian magic has been detected on Earth and is related to a string of murders that have been happening, and so Odin sends Loki to go and investigate what's going on. It's set in Victorian London, which is the perfect setting for a spooky story such as this one, and I loved all of the magical elements in it. It's got a very heavy atmosphere, which is ideal for this time of the year. If you're a big fan of the Avengers, if you're a big fan of Loki, this is definitely the book for you. And also if you just wanted a quick and easy Victorian type story to read, that's not going to take up too much of your time on Halloween evening, definitely recommend this one as well. It's very funny and there are a lot of creepy elements in it which make it that much more enjoyable. At number 2 is The Fire Child by S.K. Tremayne. This is a psychological thriller set between the months of September through to December. We follow Rachel, who is married to David. He's a very rich and handsome man, and they live in a big house in the Cornish countryside with her stepson Jamie. Jamie starts to develop a lot of creepy and mysterious behaviour. He starts to make a lot of very dark predictions, one being that the house is haunted by his late mother. Rachel very quickly becomes very suspicious of her husband David and starts to believe that there might be some truth to what Jamie is saying, and over time she unravels a lot of things that she probably didn't want to know about. Let's just put it that way. This is a very, very good thriller. I gave it 5 stars. I read it in about a night and I couldn't sleep afterwards. It's a ghost story but with a twist. I loved the very spooky elements of it. I love the setting of the Cornish countryside and the Cornish mines. I have seen some of those mines in real life, and let me tell you, at night time they do look very threatening, so it was the perfect inclusion in this story. If you want a really good psychological thriller that is going to get in your head this Halloween, I would definitely recommend this one. And my last spooky recommendation for you is not Dracula, although it could have easily have been Dracula because you guys know how much I love that book. But I talked about it enough in my last videos. I don't want to bore you guys, but I am going to go with Dracul by Dacre, Stoker and J.D. Barker. So not quite Dracula, but pretty much Dracula. So Dacre Stoker is a relative of Bram Stoker, and knowing that gave me a lot of faith that this was going to stick to the original vampire legend, which it does. And they used Bram Stoker's journal entries and letters and notes when he was writing Dracula for the inspiration of this book, and it basically gives us an idea of where the idea for Dracula might have come from. It is fictionalized, obviously, but it does have a lot of elements of Bram Stoker's real life in the story, like his illness as a child and his family. There's a lot of mention of his sister and also the job that he had before he became a writer. The story starts with Bram barricaded in the room of the castle where he has been working. There's something on the other end of the door trying to get in, and he's got his crucifix and his holy water. Not a lot of time is left, so he starts writing down all of the moments in his past that have led up to this event that we start with. And I'm just going to read what it says on the inside, because every time I have filmed this synopsis, I have never given it justice. The tale he tells is a terrifying one of a Dublin childhood full of sickness, of a mysterious nanny, of those presumed dead who live again, of stories once thought to be fables but now prove true. For on the other side of that locked door waits an ungodly nightmare that he hoped had ended years before. This book does have a few pacing issues in the middle. It does get a little bit slow, but it is still my top recommendation because the last 100 or so pages are an absolute roller coaster, and there are a few scenes in this book that I just cannot get out of my head. Even now, months after reading this, I just can't stop thinking about those particular scenes. If you love Dracula, I would definitely recommend this. If you love anything to do with vampires, definitely read this. And if you love gothic horror, Victorian horror, definitely read this. I could not recommend it enough. Okay guys, so that was my top 5 spooky book recommendations. I expect you to be picking at least one of these up, at Halloween? If you do, please let me know in the comments which one you picked up and what you thought of them. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them. If you have your own spooky recommendations, leave them down below, because I am always up for reading more creepy ghost stories and horror stories. As always, please like this video and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. Also follow me on all of my social media, I will link those down below for you. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you all in another video very soon. Bye!